Hi everyone, you might have noticed yesterday I finally opened up to talking about COVID-19. I've been wanting to avoid using this word. I've been using crisis or event or current event in my other videos because I didn't want to keep propagating it. I would open Facebook and it would be Corona, COVID, Corona, over and over again, and I actually learned how to say coronavirus in quite a few languages as a result. And I thought that was just adding more noise to. It's kind of like if you hear people saying that we're in a recession. They did a study one time. Often, the number one predictor of a recession was what people search into Google. If the search results for recession come in at a certain rate, a recession is almost guaranteed because people start to do things that will lead to the recession. They did a study one time. I think people started searching for recession in 2006, and a few years before the dot-com bubble as well. I'll let you read about that. So I didn't want to propagate that. But the reason I'm opening up about it is that the cases are going down anyway, and I think it's important to learn history because we don't want to repeat history, right? Yesterday, I was reading about the peaks of the cases. It has passed in a number of states, which is good because we're kind of at the halfway mark, right? The first thing that came to mind when I saw that was Bon Jovi screaming that we're halfway there, and I think I could go another however many weeks I've been locked up now. So halfway there came to mind. Actually, first thing I did was to open up a YouTube video with Bon Jovi screaming that he was halfway there. I still don't know the interpretation of that song. Sometimes on a long road trip or a flight or something that I dread doing. Back when I was in school, after I would finish the midterm exam, I love that song. It applies to so many things in my life. But I thought I'd take this time to reflect on the last 3-4 weeks of my life. When coronavirus first hit the news, my first worry was actually not catching the virus or dying or losing a family. Actually, I might have feared losing a family member a little bit more than dying. And those were not among my first fears. My first fear was actually being lonely. It's kind of weird because in the past I have been lonely before, and it has caused me to do a lot of regrettable things, including almost dying, but also including damaging things that damage my reputation. I fear that a little bit more than the dying itself. What really got me through it was when I would be alone, I would try to think about how this will look 20 years from now when I think back at it. That is a lot more bearable to me. When I think about 20 years ago when I caused trouble, or when I was lonely, or whatever, it doesn't seem to bother me so much. See, 12 years ago when I first moved out of my family's home, I remember thinking that to treat this like it's a reality TV show. Because I was very overwhelmed at the time of having to take care of everything for myself. When I was a kid, my favorite reality TV show was Survivor. And so when I first moved out of my family's home, I remember thinking of it as a game of Survivor with, I think at the time, about 6.5 billion contestants, right? And so I went back to that mentality. Obviously, a few contestants have joined our show, a few have left, and now we have 8 billion, right? And I remember thinking that, well, just like how when I was in school I might have had group challenges, this coronavirus is now an individual challenge, right? And that really helped get me through it. And it really helped me realize that it's okay to take a break from trying to form alliances, if you will, right? Going out to look for my future wife or future business partner. That's kind of like trying to form an alliance, right? So it's all right to take a break from that. Another thing I really capitalized on during my time was when I first heard the word social distancing, right? The first thing I thought about was, how can I make use of this to my benefit, right? And I remember thinking, what's going to be hard to do when I have to interact with people socially? And the first thing that immediately comes to mind is making any changes to my lifestyle, right? especially diet, right? Um, this past week, well, actually, even before coronavirus hit, I was already trying intermittent fasting, but I really revved it up during the coronavirus because I didn't have to worry about being offered food or seeing food or hearing food when I was in the office. I really revved up on that, and that was good. Going back to the reality TV mentality, um, how many people have been booted from this show due to coronavirus? I think around the world it's about 100,000. As I was watching those numbers tick up, I wasn't worried about dying, by the way. But what I really worried about was how I would look when I died. And so it really inspired me to go clean up the interior of my car. I drive a Mitsubishi Lancer, and the interior was a disaster because it had been lived in before. You guys have seen the videos, right? I checked into this apartment due to the social distancing, but I was hoping to live in the car during the spring. Oh well, oh well. I guess I won't be traveling to the computer game conference this year anyhow, so I took the money that I was going to use for the conference to check into this apartment for the time being. But I cleaned out the interior of my car because I was thinking if I'm going to be booted off of Earth Survivor, I want my when my family comes to watch me leave the stage, I want to have a good last memory, right? And so it inspired me to clean out the interior of my car, especially because I can move everything into my apartment now. Now I can do some cleaning, and I got very personal with it. I took some old toothbrushes and scrubbed the interior of the car. I love cleaning the interior of the car for other reasons too, but coronavirus and the fact that thousands of people were being booted off the island every day taught me that when you procrastinate, you never know if you have more time to procrastinate. I have a habit of procrastinating. Okay, now going back to the analogy, I got a little bit. I apologize if I hurt some people's sensitivities, but I got very lax talking about coronavirus earlier this month. I know I did. I know, unfortunately, I probably have a few viewers who have lost a family member or a friend, and I apologize if that's the case. But I really hold the mentality that, see, when people talk about the short-term effects of the lockdown and the long-term effects, and what we should do, should the economy come first or the people come first? See, when people say long-term, most people mean a few decades later, maybe when they're hitting retirement, maybe I have a few friends who are going to college now, maybe when they start having children, when they get married. That's what people think about when they think about the concept of long-term, right? I tend to think of long-term as hundreds of years from now, what we will leave behind as our legacy, right? That when I think long-term, I usually think that far ahead, right? When I get married, when I retire, that's more of a mid-term concept, right? The long-term is what I leave behind, and so I was thinking that if the world were under my control, right, I would love that the weakest members get called off and we just get stronger, right? Look at the Black Death and how we had the Renaissance as a result, and we're still enjoying the benefits of that, right? That's what I tend to think about when I say long term. Even if I have to go so that other people can leave behind that legacy, I would feel good about that. I have a very different perspective, and I think scientifically I'm right about that. Of course, there's a big difference between what's scientifically optimal and what is socially optimal, right? I tend to favor the scientific side of things, so I apologize if I hurt some people's sensitivities, but it also made me realize that there's another side. I tend to miss the social side of things, and that was a good experience to have some discussions with people, even though it kind of annoyed the fuck out of some people. What I really like, and I hope people continue to do this after the crisis, is the 6 feet of social distancing rule. I really like it because when I would get into a heated discussion with somebody and there would be 6 feet in between us, it was very easy to relax. Sometimes people are just very on your nerves and all that. And oh yeah, there's another event the other day. I've learned to be a little bit more thankful because again, at the end of the day, I never know when I'm going to check out of the show, right? And earlier this week, I was doing an intermittent fast. And I had gone to the grocery store and got into a minor argument with somebody in front of me in line. And I lost my appetite as a result. And as a result, I got to continue my fast. I was planning to break the fast right after leaving that grocery store. And I ended up continuing it. And so as the guy left the door, I waved at him and said, "Oh, thank you, because you helped me lose my appetite. Have a good rest of your night." And I literally was thinking that, but he got very upset and went, "Fuck you." And so I ignored him, but I was feeling good for myself because I was feeling thankful. I mean, I obviously miscalculated how I should to show my thankfulness, but I was feeling good for myself for being thankful because I used to get angry a lot. And it made me realize that the two of us, if we went home and we checked out of the reality show that night, I would have had the better last feeling that he did. So it made me realize that. And so there are a lot of good lessons. Oh yeah, there's another lesson. Given that we're halfway there, right? It made me realize that the month went by a lot quicker than I think it did, and we should never take time for granted, right? If I had the month again to do over, I would take that in a heartbeat because there were a lot of good things that came out of it. I wrote a number of computer games. Again, my computer games, I tend to think of them in the regard of 200 years from now, 300 years from now. How will I pass the torch so that somebody can make use of that to better their lives, right? I tend not to think of the long term as how do I get famous from writing the computer games, right? But the month went by a lot faster than I had thought. I was worried that I would boot myself out of the show like how I had in the past. I didn't do that this time, and in the past, for some reason, it wasn't my time to go, so that was good too. But it went by a lot faster than I had thought it would, and if I could turn the timer over and start over again, I would do that in a heartbeat. Thanks for watching.